All right, today I'm going to start, we're continuing our series, Thriving with God, and understanding how important it is for us to have hope in our lives and that desire to let God completely fulfill what He created us to be. Not everybody feels like they ever hit a place where they stride, where they have a place in their life where they're thriving per se, right? But God has the ability for you to get to a place in your life where you feel like, all right, I'm doing what I'm called to do, even if it's in the midst of struggle. It doesn't mean all of our problems and stuff lay aside. It means we hit our stride and we know that we're doing what we're called to do. Don't you know, Jesus hit his real stride as he was headed towards the cross. And so, understanding that God has a plan and a purpose and meaning for your life is so important. And so that's what this series is about, helping you get to a place where you are thriving in your relationship with God and thriving in your purpose and meaning in life. So today I want to begin with this. I'm going to read a book that actually I think you'll enjoy. I think everybody that has ever read this book enjoys. And it's got such deep, meaningful, deep spiritual and scriptural meaning to it. It's called The Three Little Pigs. So I want to read this to you real quick, and I hope you'll be able to get out of this what it's supposed, to speak to you spiritually. All right. Once upon a time means we don't know when this happened. It just happened. Okay. I don't know if you knew that or not, but once upon a time this happened. Okay. There were three little pigs who went out into the big world to build their homes and to seek their fortunes. That means they left their parents like they were supposed to. It's a good thing, right? The first little pig, but they stayed and were a part of the church, so that was good. The first little pig did not like to work at all. Everybody say, oh. He quickly built himself a house of straw. All right, so here they go. They're on their way out. And he quickly builds a house of straw. Then off he danced down the road to see how his brothers were getting along. So he danced down the road while he was playing a flute, apparently. It's a little different than the flute that I've seen, but okay. The second little pig was building himself a house too. He did not like to work any better than his brother. Oh. So he had decided to build a quick and easy house of sticks. I'm sorry, not bricks. I need my glasses on. Now I can read to you. So he had decided to build a quick and easy house of sticks. All right. So I don't know how easy a house built out of sticks would be. I would reckon that it's pretty difficult, but this guy doesn't like to work, so it must be easy. So soon it was finished too. It was not a very strong little house, but at least the work was done. Now the second little pig was free to do what he liked. What he liked to do was play his fiddle and dance. So now he's playing his fiddle and dancing. What a cute little pig. So while the first little pig tooted his flute, the second little pig sawed away on his fiddle and danced as he played. And as he danced, he sang, I built my house of sticks, I built my house of twigs, with a hey diddle diddle I play my fiddle and dance all kinds of jigs. Then off the two little pigs danced down the road together to go see what their brother was doing. Well, the third little pig was a sober pig. Everybody say sober. Look at the sober face he's got on him, if you can see it. He was building a house too, but he was building his of bricks. He did not mind hard work and wanted a stout little, strong little house, for he knew that in the woods nearby there lived a big bad wolf. Oh, yeah. Everybody say, oh, big bad wolf. And the big bad wolf who liked nothing better than to catch little pigs and eat them up. So, slop, slosh, slap. Away he worked, laying bricks and smoothing mortar between them. Okay, now introduces the wolf. See the wolf? He's a big bad wolf. Big nose. Ha ha ha, laughed the first little pig when he saw his brother at work. Ho ho ho, laughed the second little pig. Come down and play with us. They tempted him. But the busy little pig did not pause. Slap, slosh, slap. Went bricks on mortar as he called down to them. And he's pretty mad. He says, I build my house with stones. I build my house of bricks. I have no chance to sing and dance, for work and play don't mix. He's a preacher. Ho, 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 ha, 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 laughed the two lazy little pigs, dancing along to the tune of the fiddle and the flute. You can laugh and dance and sing. See, he's preaching. He's pointing his finger. That's what they do, right? But I'll be safe and you'll be sorry when the wolf comes to your door. Ha, 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 ho, 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 laughed the two little pigs again. And they disappeared into the woods singing a merry tune. And look who's in the woods. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf, the big bad wolf. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Tra-la-la-la-la. Just as the first pig reached his door, out of the woods popped the big bad wolf. The little pig squealed with fright and slammed the door. And he said, little pig, let me come in. And the little pig said, not by the... on my little chinny chin, right? Then the wolf said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. And he did. He blew the little straw house all to pieces. Away raced the little pig to his brother's house of sticks. No sooner as he was at the door when there was a big bad wolf that knocked. But of course, the little pigs would not let him in. I'll fool those little pigs, he said. He left the little pig's house and he hid behind a big tree. Soon the door opened and the two little pigs peeked out. There was no wolf in sight. Ha, 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 ho, 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 laughed the two little pigs. We fooled him. Then they danced around the room singing gaily. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf, the big bad wolf. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf, the big bad wolf. You guys are not wanting to sing. Tra-la-la-la-la. Soon there came another knock at the door. It was the big bad wolf again, but he had covered himself with sheepskin. You ever seen that? He was a wolf in sheepskin, right? And he was curled up in a basket looking like a little lamb. Who's there? Called the second little pig. I'm a poor little sheep with no place to sleep. Please open the door and let me in, said the big bad wolf with a sweet little voice. The little pig peeked through the crack of the door and he could see the wolf's big black paws and sharp fangs. Not by the hair on my... You can't fool us with that sheepskin, said the second little pig. Then I'll huff and I'll... Not yet. Almost there, right? Then he huffed and he puffed and not yet. He puffed and he huffed and he blew the little twig house all to pieces. Away raced the two little pigs straight to the third little pig's house of bricks. Don't worry, said the little pig to his two frightened little brothers. You are safe here. Soon they will be singing. Soon they were all singing. This made the big bad wolf perfectly furious. That means he was really mad. Perfectly furious, right? Now by the hair of my chinny chin, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So the big bad wolf huffed, puffed, and huffed, but he couldn't blow down the house of bricks. How could he get in? At last he thought, I'll use the chimney. So he climbed up the chimney quietly, then with a snarl, down he jumped right into the kettle of boiling water. Yes, he died. With a yelp, he didn't. With a yelp of pain, he sprang straight up in the chimney and raced into the woods. The three little pigs never saw him again and spent their time in the strong little brick house singing and dancing merrily. Yes. And we can pray about that. So, no. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. It's amazing how at the end of the story, they were all willing to live in a smaller house because it was safer. You know, there is a big bad wolf. There is. And at some point, he's coming to get you. He wants you. He will eat you. He will put you out of your house. But the big bad wolf doesn't always look like a big bad wolf. Sometimes it comes in the form of storms. Storms of life. There are things that happen in life. Temptation comes. And that comes as a storm. Trials come. Fiery trials. The storms of life happen, right? And the good news about storms is, eventually, storms run out of rain. And when they run out of rain, what happens? The sun shines again. When night falls, the darkest times of your life, you can count on it. The storm will go and the night will go. And what will happen? The sun will come out again. You need to believe that, and you need to know that. That is so true. No matter how dark your darkest day is, the sun will shine again. No matter how big and bad and horrible the storm is, the sun will come out again. That's a promise. That's the way this works. That's the way it is. And the reality is, you can't escape the storms of life. You will go through the storms of life. No matter how small and how great they are coming your way. That's just reality. The main thing is that you need to learn how to stand up in the storms and at times stand against the storms, because it's in these storms that I'm talking about. It's in the times when the big bad wolf comes to you and wants to devour you. It's in these moments that people find themselves giving up. It's in these moments that people find themselves depressed. This is in these moments when we find ourselves leaning towards an addiction of some sort, or we lose our faith in these moments. We say, all right, God, if you're not helping me, I'm not going to stay with you. And it's those times that God is saying you need to learn how to stand strong in. Because if you will fight during the storm, and if you will stay standing firm on the backside, when the sun comes out, you'll always be able to look back and see that God was with you. And He's the one that got you through it. Reality is, darkness comes, trials come, temptations come, difficult moments come, and you need to learn to work hard, if you haven't, to stand firm and stand strong in those moments. Jesus taught us how to do this. He gave us all the information we need to be able to not just survive, but to actually thrive in this life. And his teachings, they were life-giving. They were protecting. His teachings were life-building. And he put it this way. It's pretty much the same story as the three little pigs, just a little different. Jesus said it this way. He said, whoever hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the water came up, the wind blew and hit the house. The house did not fall because it was built on a rock. Whoever hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came, the water came up, the wind blew and hit the house. The house fell and broke apart. What is Jesus saying? He's saying, if you will listen to what I have to say to you, if you will build your life based upon the things that I am teaching you, your house will stand firm and stand strong. Your life will be firm and strong, and you will flourish even through a storm. Our culture, though, has taught us that we are building our lives on things that don't matter. In America, freedom is what we're about. And I love freedom, don't get me wrong. But to build our lives on freedom, our lives on our rights, our lives upon our privileges or our impulsive behaviors, and say, these are my rights, this is what my life is about, and we're willing to fight for these, we're willing to take to the streets for these things, Jesus is like, these are not the things that you build your life on. That's straw or that's sticks that you're building your house on. It's not going to last. You see, all of those are sand. All of those are like, you ever stand on the seashore and let the waves hit you? What happens to the sand underneath you? It just starts going out. And if you stand there long enough, you're going to eventually be buried, right? That's what it's like, having your life built on these things. So Jesus taught us different things to build our life on. And if you're not prepared for these moments, you're in trouble. And so Jesus says, here's what I would like you to build your life on. Responsibility. You taking upon yourself responsibility, things that matter. Now, here's what a lot of people do. A lot of people wait to hear what someone else says that they need to do with their day. They wait for a phone call. They wait for someone to say, hey, I've got an emergency. I need you to go fix this. And that's how they build their life, with some sort of sense of responsibility. But God says, I have purpose and meaning for your life that I want you to actually decide and be proactive in deciding that you will do these things with your life. You will make these decisions and you will commit yourself to certain people, certain places, certain things that matter, especially for God's kingdom. And the other thing that Jesus talked about was building your life around meaning, having meaning in your life, things that are meaningful, things that will last for eternity, as opposed to just things that last here on earth. And when you do that, when the storms come, you have not built your life on the sand, but on a solid foundation, and you've built your life with bricks and mortar, as opposed to the sticks and stones, or the sticks and hay of life. So if your life is nothing more than fighting for rights and privileges, good luck with that. It's not going to work for you. If your life is built on nothing more than freedom to do whatever you want to do with your life, good luck with that. Good luck with that. It's not going to work for you. But if your life is built on responsibility and meaning in Christ, that's going to work. And what did Jesus say? He's the rock, right? But He's that cornerstone. And what does the cornerstone do? The cornerstone determines all the sides of the building. It determines everything. You set that one stone wrong and you've messed up. And if you put as the cornerstone of your life anything but Christ, anything but what He taught, then the rest of your life is going to be out of kilter and you're going to be trying to figure it out for the rest of your life. But when you place Him as the cornerstone of your life, what are you doing? You're setting up the rest of your life, and it will be solid, it will be strong, it will be healthy. And when the big bad wolf comes, your home won't be made of sticks, it won't be made of hay. It will be made of something solid and truthful and healthy, and you'll withstand the storm. And here's what you need to know too. God is building a home. He's building a home with us and ultimately for us. And we're invited to be a part of building that home, and He wants you to live with Him for eternity. He wants that. He deeply desires that. No matter who you are, where you come from, what you've done, or who you were with, you belong with God in His home if you want to be there and you accept Him. You see, God's deep desire is that you live with Him. He wants you to come live with Him. Really. He wants you to come make your home with Him. He's building a home. It started way back in Exodus chapter 25. Let me read it to you. This is how it started. God was going to build a temporary house here on earth for him to meet with his people and him to be with his people. And this is the way it started. Exodus 25. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You're to receive the offering for me from everyone whose hearts prompted them to give." So this is how God started a building project here on earth. And it was temporary compared to what he's building up there. But he goes on to say that the people could bring all kinds of things as gifts to make this happen. Everything from gold and silver to olive oil, all the way to dolphin skins, which is pretty interesting, isn't it? And look at the instructions that God gave. He said, "I only want it from people whose hearts are prompted to give." In other words, those who put their heart into it. Those who want to see this happen. They want to see me have a place to be and to meet with them. And then he said, this is his instructions, "Then have them make a sanctuary for me from what they bring, and I will dwell among them. Make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like the pattern I will show you." God then gives detailed instructions on the buildings and the furnishings and all of that. It's like us trying to build our home. It's kind of fun. Amy and I, we built a home, and last November we moved into it. And since then, we've been trying to, make it a home, make it make sense for our daily lives. And we've been furnishing it. We've been trying to decide how to even decorate and different things like that. And we've kept it pretty simple. It's lovely. We just love it. But it's so much fun putting it together. And God says, in that same way, this is how I want you to build this place that I'm going to come and meet with you. He told them about the Ark of the Covenant. They brought the Ark of the Covenant in there. He's like, all right, this is my chair, my spot. This is my room, in fact. Only I'm in here except for a priest once a year gets to come in here. But you guys know I'm in here, and I'm going to communicate with you guys. And this is how we're going to do this. And he gave them instructions on the table and the lampstand. Lamps, where to put them. Curtains, the color of curtains that he wanted. God told him that. That's pretty awesome. How to hang them with gold hooks, he said. And how big the rooms should be. And the furnishings and the utensils and all the things that were details of this being like a home for God to be able to meet with his people. And he gave instructions on building an altar and how they needed to be able to have that in order to bring in all of the things that they slaughter and kill and the blood and all that stuff that was there to cover over their sins. And look, and when you look at how God is building his home, you can also look as to how you can build your own life. And here's one of the key things that God looked for when it comes to building a home. The first key is to do it with people whose hearts are in it. He said, "You're to receive the offering from me from everyone whose heart prompts them to give." You can decide to put your heart into this. And that's what God is looking for. Is your heart into building a home with him? His kingdom and what he wants to do and having a relationship with you and with us? That's key. Can you imagine trying to build a home with a spouse that couldn't care less about building a home with you? Could you imagine that? It's like, whatever. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Or can you imagine having people in your home that didn't care if it was in order at all or didn't care if it was clean at all or anything like that? Could you imagine how difficult that would be, especially if it were your spouse? You put your heart into it, and the people that you're with will know that your heart is in it. And the great thing about this is God doesn't tax his people. Now, some churches do. I don't know if you know this or not, but some churches actually have their people bring their taxes to them and have them show that they are paying tithe based upon how much money they gave to the church. Did you know that? Everybody say, thank God for Relate Church. You see, God never meant, He doesn't force people to give. He doesn't force people to put their heart into it. And listen to me, and let me be clear. There's more ways than just giving to show that your heart is in it. Amen? But that's how it worked here. And God doesn't threaten people with like, I'm going to slash your tires if you don't give today or something like that. That's not what God does. God is looking for people who want to live with Him, who want to be a part of what He's doing. It's fun if you go online and read some of the comments that people have made about local churches in the area. It's really interesting. And I love it because some of the churches are making so much of a difference. Lives are being changed. Great things are happening in these churches, just like ours. And it's wonderful, right? But it's also interesting because you'll read some comments about some churches that, and instead of the people giving an offering, they're actually taking the offering. And then, in fact, that's what they get up and they say, well, it's time to take the offering today. And they pass the buckets and all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. God, He never intended His home to be built by anyone but those whose hearts are in it. He never intended the church or anybody to build His home without their heart being in it. And that's important for us. You see, God looks to see how much you and I love His house, and that will determine how much He blesses us. Okay, if you fell asleep, please listen to this, because this affects all of us. How much you put your heart into this determines how much God is able to bless us as a church family. So if you or I could just kind of take or leave this place, God will be the same. That's a harsh reality. But if we put our heart into it, how many of you know God will bless it? The night before Jesus was crucified, He spent a lot of time talking to the disciples. He was like a coach just before the last game of the season. You know, it was a championship game. And Jesus was like, all right, we're going out with this one, guys. And He spent a lot of time talking to them that night. And these men would be responsible for taking what Jesus did and translating it into what we know today as the church. And Jesus said this to these guys this night, just before He was betrayed. He said, guys, my Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, I would have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? He says, this is true. It's real. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may be where I am. My Father has a house. It's got a lot of rooms. And I'm going to prepare that place for you. God is building a home. And after Jesus resurrected, many people saw Him and talked with Him. He was in and out for about a month before He flew out of here like Superman. He literally just, I don't know if He did that. He could have been like, I don't know what He did. He could have, but He flew out of here. It was pretty amazing. And He ascended. And the believers grew in number from that moment. God's family began to grow in that time. And His house was beginning to be built in all kinds of different places. The church building is not the church. The church people are the church. Amen? But they begin to build places and have places where they could meet with God and be with God. And a leader in the church at the time, his name was the Apostle Paul. He said this, he wrote to one of the churches, "The kingdom of faith is now your home country. You're no longer strangers or outsiders. You belong here. With as much right to the name Christian as anyone, God is building a home." That's what he said. What is he saying? He's saying, look, your family may not be very accommodating for you. And especially for them at this time, many of these people were pushed out of the family because they'd accepted Christ into their lives. Your family may not be everything that you need them to be, but God has a home and He has a family for you. And they are forced by God to accept, to love, to work with you and to walk with you and to help you get involved with what His plan and purpose is in your life. And it's called the church. God is building a home right here, and it's for you. But here's the tension. To live with others means you have to love others. And that means there's going to be people around you that are kind of unlovable sometimes. Who said that? One of the most difficult things in our home sometimes when my kids were growing up was movie night. Oh, man, it was so difficult. Trying to pick out a movie. And it wasn't, that they didn't like the movies that the other ones liked. It's just that I want my movie to be the one that gets to be seen. But at the same time, they all wanted different genres, right? John Michael, he wanted something that was scary. James David wanted something that was funny. Laura Ashley wanted something that was probably a documentary of sorts. Emma Grace wanted something that was deep and meaningful, from like history or something, right? And at the same time, she was, the youngest in the family, so no one really knew what she wanted anyway because she was the youngest, the baby, right? And all I wanted as dad was peace. I wanted my kids to just sit down and enjoy the fact that we were together. And just enjoy it whether they liked the movie or not. Just be together and have fun, doggone it, right? And church can be the same way. Well, I don't like that kind of music. Or I don't like that kind of preaching. Some people are like, well, I don't like a preacher that uses notes while he's preaching. That's obviously not from his heart if he's got to have notes to preach. And some people, they like the preacher to read verse by verse by verse by verse by verse. And I'll do that every now and then. And then we'll do something else. And some don't like the new songs. What's funny is the old songs are from the 80s now. And in the 80s, the old songs were from the mid-1800s probably. I had a guy call me in December, and he was looking for a place to go for Christmas Eve. And it was funny because you could tell he'd really worked himself up to have this phone conversation. And he got a very business-like conversational style. Yes, is this the pastor? It sure is. Yeah, well, how can I help you? Well, I'm wanting to find out if you have a Christmas Eve service. I said, yes, absolutely we do. We'd love to have you. Come on. Told him what time it was, and he said, well, I have one more question for you. What style of music do you use in your church? Do you guys have? I said, well, kind of what you'd hear on the radio, some of those songs, and sometimes we mix it up, and we have some older songs that are mixed into there. I knew he was not coming, It was funny. And, well, yeah, hope to see you. And it's just so funny, our perception of what things should be, right? And what we like. And then you have someone that says, well, I don't understand. Why do we have to send money all the way over there to those missionaries when we've got plenty of people right here to be saved? And the people that are saying that never bring anybody to church either, right? And then you've got some that say, well, we need to focus more on missions, and we need to focus more on missions. We've got perspectives, all kinds of, I want, I think, I don't like, I don't like, I don't like, I don't like. And God is saying, I just want the family together. I want peace. And this is what love is. Love is giving up what I like. And love is embracing people whether I like it or not. And just saying, oh, it's good to be here on Sunday morning. It's good to be together. And fighting to be together. Deciding to put our heart into God's home. Deciding. And God looks and sees whose heart is in it. He sees it. Jesus came and made us a part of God's family, God's home. There's a teaching that has dominated the church for decades now, close to 50 years if not. And that teaching is basically, it became in so many ways saturation in the church of this is what the church is about. It's marriage and the family and parenting. And we would have all kinds of seminars and all kinds of things for people to go to all the time. For marriage and family, marriage and family, marriage and family. And that's great. That's great. I don't have anything against preaching and teaching about marriage and the family. But what's interesting is, in all those decades of focus on the family, y'all remember Focus on the Family? Appreciate James Dobson and all he did. But in all those years, it's interesting, the divorce rate in the church and in the world stayed the same, even though there was that much teaching and preaching about the family. Does anybody else find that a little strange? We've taught so much on how to build our own homes, but we forgot about God. In fact, the church became all about just building a building instead of building a home. And Jesus did address marriage and the family with this. He never had a seminar. Hey guys, we're having a seminar on your married life. We're doing that this weekend. Bring them out. He never did that. Not that that's wrong. Not that we won't do something like that. It's fun and it's good. But here's what his focus was. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Seek first his kingdom, his righteousness, and all the areas of your life that you're worried about will come together. That's what Jesus said. There's his seminar. Some of you have faced great disappointment when you tried to build a home. Some of you have faced huge rejection by your own family. Some of you are sorely disappointed in your own family. And some of us have so much drama going on in our families that we long for a real family. And that's what God is building right here. A family, a home. And you're invited to build with him. James David, would you come? And I'll finish with this. In the Old Testament, there came a time when God was finished with Israel. He was just done. And the home that he was so meticulous about how they build it, the curtains, the lamps, all the utensils, the tables, his place where he sat, God said, I'm leaving. And he got up and he slowly moved out of the temple. And worse than that, without him there, they came in, the other country, Babylon, came in and they wiped them out and they destroyed that temple. But some years later, he was bringing the Israelites back. And he wanted them to rebuild the temple. And I want to read some of this to you. He said, a message from God of the angel armies. The people procrastinate. This is as the people are coming back in. He says the people procrastinate. They say this isn't the right time to rebuild my temple, the temple of God. Shortly after that, God said more, and Haggai spoke of it. How is it that it's the right time for you to live in your fine new homes while the home, God's temple, is in ruins? So what he's saying is when they came back into the community, they rebuilt their homes, and they made them all real nice, and it was beautiful. But God's temple was still sitting over there in ruins. Nobody was interested in rebuilding God's temple. Nobody was interested in worship. Nobody was interested in God hopefully coming back into their community, into their home where they could go and they could offer sacrifice. Nobody was interested in that. And then a little later, God of the angel armies spoke again, and he said, take a good hard look at your life. Think it over. He says, you've spent a lot of money, but you're still not happy. You're empty. You've eaten a lot of food, but you're still hungry. He says, you layer your clothes, but you're still cold. And you keep spinning your wheels for what? Doesn't that sound a lot like our world today? We're just running and doing event after event and all kinds of stuff. Just trying to find a moment of sanity, a moment of peace, but at the same time, we just can't stop. God says, you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying. And he said this, here's what I want you to do. Climb into the hills and cut down some timber, bring it down, rebuild the temple. And listen how personal this is. Do it just for me. Honor me. You've had great ambitions for yourselves, but nothing's come of it. The harder you try to feed yourself, take care of yourself, survive, nothing comes of it. And why? Because while you've run around, caught up and taking care of your own houses, my home is in ruins. And God goes on to say how they struggled in every area of their life, their fields, their crops, bad harvest, bad relationships, bad homes, bad finances. No matter how hard they try, they just can't get it together. So the people, they listened. And they went up and they started cutting down trees and they started bringing them down. They started rebuilding the temple, doing it God's way, building God's home again. And a few months later, God tells them to think back and remember where they were when they first started building the temple, rebuilding the temple. He said everything you were doing got hit, but it didn't seem to faze you. You continued to ignore me before you rebuilt the temple. You continued to ignore me. Now think ahead from that to this date, this 24th day of the 9th month. Think ahead from when the temple rebuilding was launched. Has anything in your fields, vine, fig, tree, pomegranate, olive tree, failed to flourish? From now on, you can count on a blessing. Wow. He says, because you shifted your focus from taking care of your own selves, from just trying to survive, and you started doing what I've asked you to do. You started bringing me back into your life, and you want me into your community. I will bless you and have blessed you because of it. How many of you know that's just true? That's how God functions. He says, are you going to put your heart into me? If you do, if you seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, all these things will be added unto you. And if you'll begin building your home, focusing on the home that God is building, your life is going to be restored. That's how He works. Do you believe Him? Let's pray. So God, we thank you that you've given us all the information that we need to have strong, healthy lives. So that God, when the storms come, when the enemy comes against us, we will not be destroyed. In fact, we will thrive because you're with us. So God, we turn our hearts towards you and we invite you. God, fill the temple of our lives. Fill us, fill our hearts and our lives with your presence. Help us, oh God, as we build your house, your kingdom. It starts with you in our lives, in our personal lives. We invite you in every way to come into every nook and cranny of ourselves. And God, we want to build your kingdom together. I pray, Father, for your blessing upon us as we do. Thank you for protecting and watching over. God, there are those in this house that need healing. I pray for that. God, there are all of us that need to be able to withstand temptation. Thank you for protecting us and watching over us. Give us strength and courage to overcome the enemy. Health, relationships, everything that we need. God, thank you that all these things will be added to us because we're focused on you and your kingdom in Jesus' name. Maybe you're here today and you need to accept Christ into your life. Just do that right now. Jesus, I give you my heart. I want to get to know who you are and what you like and what you don't like, and I accept you into my life. Help me to accommodate for you living in me for the rest of my life. In Jesus' name.